Hey, I'm the service manager with RV. My name's Henry. Today we're going to be removing the sink that is recessed, and a very common problem where the sealant around here gives way or we have fasteners fall through. So underneath some of these sinks you're going to have to remove certain fixtures, and this one we had drawers we have to remove. We did that off camera, but you can look at this. The drawer system is all has bearings, so this would be a good time to inspect that, make sure they all look okay, just in case you need new slides. Typically on them there's little fasteners you'd pull up on one side, push down the other, and the drawer just slides out. Also, what you'll see is down here you'll have little screws holding things into the floor. So sometimes you'll have hidden, I guess they call them hiders, and that hides plumbing or different fixtures, wirings, things like that. But right here's what we're going to be getting to. This is the P-trap. All this stuff should be hand tight. You shouldn't really need a whole lot of tools to remove this stuff. Right here, I'm going to be removing the bottom of the drain. This is part of the P-trap assembly. So twist it. Like I said, all this stuff should be pretty loose. You don't want it super tight. In this situation, we can see it's kind of bound up. So what we're going to do is the customer had to add support right here, and they picked a jack to do that with. So we'll have to remove this to kind of take some of the pressure off of the P-trap system. None of this should have any pressure on it at all. It's not load bearing, it's not structural or anything like that. All right, so we're going to loosen it up. And now the P-trap is disconnected. All right, so keep in mind while you're doing this, part of the P-trap system is there's going to be dirty water in this little trap right here. Basically what that's doing is keeping gases from backing up and going into your camper and smelling things up. But you can see we got it all loose. We won't need to mess with that at all here. Now we should be able to pull this guy out. All right, so we've gotten it loose. The way this one is secured is it has pieces of thread coming down with brackets that thread with a wing nut, pushing it to the bottom side of the counter. Now, if you look down in here, you can see we have 110 wiring hanging out right here. So make sure that you go through and test these before you start doing this, because if it pinches or grabs it, it could be could create a short, and you know we're working with metal here. So we've already disconnected 110 to this, so we can go ahead and remove the sink. This one's a little bit different. You will have to fish it and wiggle it until we can get it to get out of there. We're also making sure that we're not scratching up the customer or your own stuff. So this right here is plastic coating fiberboard. So if it gets wet or gets damaged, it'll be very hard to keep it from swelling up or anything like that. So just make sure when you're removing it, you're careful not to tear up your plastic. Now is when I like to take apart the drain. It's a lot easier to get to. You can see all we have here is a very large nut that screws onto this drain. Sometimes you may need a tool to help with this. They do make a drain tool that fits now into this guy right here. We shouldn't need it though. We're just going to twist it off here. All right, so we are there now. So what I like to do to keep myself organized is I'll put each part out like this. So I have my nut there. Now I have a seal, a small piece of cardboard. And then obviously while we're doing this, we want to inspect the seals, make sure there's no damage to them. They're not pinched. This one has a little bit of cupping to it, but not enough to really matter. It still feels very flexible and like it has life to it. All right, then I'm just going to drop this guy through. And on this, you can see we have another seal. We also want to inspect it. This one's cupped a little bit worse. This one's pretty close to need to be replaced. It's not a bad idea to have these seals on hand just in case you do want to replace them. All right, and that is it for the old sink. All right, so now that we got the new sink, obviously verify that it's going to fit into our opening, and then we're just going to reassemble it the same way that we took it apart. So we're going to pop this guy back through here. Drop this seal right there, cardboard piece right there, and then we're going to tighten this down. Now be mindful that if you do decide to use tools in this process, that if you over tighten this, it is plastic and it will break very easily. So something else to consider when you're putting this on here is I'll show you when we flip this guy over, the positioning of this drain, because there is a lip on the back side of this actual drain assembly piece right here, that it needs to fit in the lip of the sink. So now I've got it just a little bit snugged up, so we're going to flip it over and look at it, and it looks like we've got it pretty well centered, but I'm going to move it just a little bit this way before I fully tighten it down right there. So now we've got it fully centered up. All right, we're going to do the same thing on this one. Got my gasket, my cardboard piece, and then this guy. Once I get it snugged up, I'll check the centering on it. There we go. We can tighten it down. All right, now we're ready to reinstall it. Once we've got our old sink reassembled and everything, I like to go in and inspect everything. We see we have old sealant that we need to remove. So we'll come through here. Most of this is going to peel off pretty easy. If you do have trouble getting it off there, what I would use is something plastic, like a plastic scraper, something non-marring. I don't want to just take my razor blade or a knife to it because, like I said, this is a lot of times is plastic coated press board, which is known to leak pretty easily. So, or I apologize, not leak, but swill. And it does get wet. Well, looking down at the P-traps, you'll notice that we have this swivel guy right here that I loosened up. Make sure that we don't lose this seal right here. You'll have one on both sides. Just make sure it's relatively clean. That right there, yes, it does look dirty, but that's not bad enough to warrant any kind of pulling it out or anything like that. So just make sure that the gasket's in good condition so we can reinstall it. Now's a great time to replace anything like this that needs to be replaced. Then also while I'm in here, you're getting a view of the inside that you rarely get to see, so just check everything out. Sometimes you'll find lost things in there, wherever it gets dropped down in there. So, all right, so with the customer's permission, I went ahead and removed the studs. She wanted it mounted differently, just because the old way of mounting, they didn't really have a whole lot holding it in there. So now we can simply drop this guy in there like that. What we'll do is I want to make sure everything fits good. There's no bouncing, anything crazy going on. And also want to check my plumbing underneath. All right, with this part, we're going to go ahead and put it on there. We want to make sure there's no bind or anything like that. It should very easily screw back on there. You can see we did change the geometry just a little bit on this drain, but as long as it's running downhill, it should be perfectly fine. So we go there. Now we'll go to the other side, and we're going to tighten it up. So from drain to drain, it should be a universal fit. We just got to make sure we get that on there. We're not binding anything up. It doesn't feel like it's unbind. We just got to move it around a little bit, make sure it drops in there. There it goes. All right, same thing here. These are plastic fittings. We don't want to overly tighten them. We'll just get them hand tight, snug them up. Now's a good time to check everything else, make sure everything else is pretty tight. And same with this guy. It is good. The last test I'll do is I fill both sides, and we'll go underneath and make sure it's holding water. Doing a little field test. Everything's good there. And then we'll pull the drains and make sure we don't have anything coming down. All right, everything's good there. All right, now I'm working around the edge where the countertop meets the sink. That's it.